Do not make the mothers of Earth learn your name. Elder Vaylor said it so softly that half the Hall of Quiet Stars did not hear him at first. The other half went silent because they did. High Marshal Koresh Vaughn stood beneath the glass ceiling with both hands behind his back, his dark bronze armor polished bright enough to catch the light of every dead star above him. Around him, the delegates of the Galactic Accord sat in rising circles, thousands of species packed into one ancient chamber, all of them watching the same thing happen. The Dravinian Dominion had decided Earth was small enough to take. Koresh smiled like a man accepting applause before anyone had offered it. You are asking me to spare a mining planet with weather problems, he said. A loud little world that found space yesterday and now blocks a gate my empire needs. A few Dominion officers chuckled behind him. Nobody else did. At the far end of the chamber, Elder Vaylor remained standing, thin and tall, his pale silver-blue skin glowing faintly under the cold lights. He looked fragile from a distance, almost ceremonial, wrapped in a robe older than most governments in the room. But there was something in his face that made the younger delegates avoid his eyes. He was not afraid of Koresh. That was the unsettling part. He was afraid for him. Earth is not a mining planet, Vaylor said. It is not a gate station. It is not a bargaining chip. It is a sealed door. Koresh turned slightly, allowing the public record drones to catch his better side. He enjoyed witnesses. Men like him always did. Then we will open it. A ripple moved through the council seats. Not quite panic, not quite disbelief. The Soul Gate had become the most valuable route in the inner spiral, a clean jump corridor that could save fleets 3 weeks of travel. Humanity had refused Dominion control, politely, twice. They had offered shared traffic rights, inspection schedules, civilian priority lanes, and a boring stack of legal terms that Koresh had taken as weakness. To him, restraint looked exactly like fear. 6 hours from now, Koresh announced, his voice carrying through the translation field. My fleet will enter soul space. Earth will surrender the gate, remove its orbital defenses, and accept Dominion supervision. No city needs to suffer. No family needs to be frightened. They only need to kneel to reality. Elder Vaylor closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked tired in a way no living thing should be tired. Then he placed one long hand against the black stone rail before him. I was there the last time humans were forced to remember what they are. Koresh laughed. You were there when fire was invented, old one. Forgive me if I do not build military policy around bedtime stories. The insult landed hard enough to make several delegates lower their heads. Vaylor did not react. That somehow made it worse. He simply looked at Koresh the way a doctor looks at a patient who has refused the last treatment that might save him. Listen to me carefully, Vaylor said. Humans are not peaceful because they lack anger. They are peaceful because they buried it. They are not polite because they are harmless. They are polite because they remember the cost of being otherwise. Koresh stepped down from the speaker's platform, boots ringing against the old floor. My ships outnumber theirs 9-1. Numbers comfort the young, Vaylor said. For a while. Their weapons are outdated. By choice. Their diplomats begged for more talks. Because talking was still cheaper than what comes after. Koresh's smile thinned. For the first time, irritation cut through the performance. You expect me to fear a species that sends lawyers before soldiers? Vaylor leaned forward, and the glow in his skin faded until he seemed carved from moonlight and ash. Yes, he said, especially that species. The chamber held its breath. Somewhere above them, beyond the glass, the stars burned cold and distant. Koresh looked around at the watching delegates, at the record drones, at the frightened silence he mistook for respect. Then he gave the order with a casual flick of 2 fingers. Begin the soul approach. Far across the room, a junior aide from a neutral world whispered, he is really doing it. Vaylor heard her. Everyone heard her. The oldest being in the galaxy lowered himself back into his seat, not defeated, not surprised, only sorrowful. Then may whatever God still listen have mercy on his fleet, he said. Because Earth will not know he needs it yet. Commander Nathan Cole did not look surprised when the red line crossed into soul space. That was what bothered Lieutenant Mara Jensen the most. Everyone else in the room reacted like normal people. Someone swore under his breath. Someone dropped a folder. A young communications officer stared at the main screen as if the Dominion fleet might disappear if he blinked hard enough. But Cole just sat at the end of the conference table with a paper cup of coffee cooling beside his left hand, reading the numbers like they were a grocery receipt that did not add up. Deep under Cheyenne Mountain, behind blast doors and old American concrete, Terran Defense Command had no windows, no daylight, and no room for panic. The walls hummed with air filters. The big display showed Earth in quiet blue, the moon in pale gray, Mars blinking orange, and beyond them the first Dominion vessels sliding past the outer markers. 900 warships, 40 capital dreadnoughts, one flagship broadcasting enough arrogance to light up half the system. "Commander," Jensen said, trying to keep her voice even, "Dominion lead elements have passed the neutral boundary. They are ignoring traffic control and civilian warning beacons." Cole nodded once. "How many people are still outside the inner shield?" The question landed strangely. Not weapons. Not fleet strength. Not how long until contact. People. Jensen checked her tablet. "Rough count is 82,000 across Lunar Relay, the Mars transfer yards, and 3 civilian mining stations near the belt. Evacuation is moving, but not fast enough." Cole rubbed one thumb along the rim of his coffee cup. He had slept 3 hours in the last 2 days, and it showed in the gray under his eyes. He was 44, broad-shouldered, pale-skinned, with the tired face of a man who had spent most of his adult life making sure worse men never got to make the first move. On the screen, the Dominion fleet kept coming. "Put every hospital shuttle ahead of cargo," he said. "Then families with children. Then non-essential staff." A colonel across the table leaned forward. "Sir, if we reroute that traffic, we slow down military deployment by at least 20 minutes. Cole looked at him, not angry, just steady. "Then we deploy 20 minutes slower." Nobody argued after that. A private channel opened on Cole's side display. Denver Civilian Network. A message from his daughter, Lily, 13 years old, and trying too hard to sound casual. "Dad, school says we are going underground for a drill. Is this real?" Cole stared at the words for half a second too long. He thought about calling her. He thought about telling her that everything was fine, the way parents were supposed to. Instead, he typed with 2 fingers. "Listen to your teachers. Help Mrs. Alvarez with the younger kids. I love you." He did not send the part that said he was scared too. Across the room, another officer spoke up. "Dominion is demanding surrender within 1 hour. They want the Soul Gate, orbital defense removal, and occupation authority." A few people looked at Cole, waiting for anger, waiting for a speech. He stood, walked to the main console, and studied the curved path of the enemy advance. "Open diplomatic channel." "Live, sir." "No. Text only." The communications officer swallowed. "Ready." Cole leaned over the terminal and spoke slowly enough for the transcription system to catch every word. "You are inside a protected civilian system. Turn around." The officer hesitated. "That is all." Cole picked up his coffee, tasted it, and made a face because it had gone cold. "That is all they have earned." The message went out across the dark. For 11 seconds, Earth waited. Then the Dominion reply came back in a polished synthetic voice, loud enough to fill the bunker. "Terran Command, your restraint has been noted as compliance. Prepare to receive Dominion supervision." No one laughed. No one breathed easily. Cole set the coffee down and looked at the old protocol menu buried beneath 3 layers of command authorization. "Hearthline." Jensen saw the name and went pale. "Sir, I thought that was theoretical." Cole placed his hand on the scanner. So did they. The system accepted his print, then his eye, then his voice. Around the room, status lights shifted from soft blue to watchful white. Above Earth, silent things that had slept for generations began listening. High Marshal Koresh Vaughn read Earth's message 3 times, then let his officers see him smile. The bridge of the Crown of Ash was wide, dark, and built to make every visitor feel small. The command deck curved around him in bronze tiers, each station staffed by Dominion officers with polished armor and perfect posture. Beyond the forward glass, Sol was still only a distant light wrapped in sensor data, but Koresh already imagined the blue planet beneath his flag. "You are inside a protected civilian system," he repeated, tasting the words like cheap wine. "Turn around." His senior navigator made a clicking sound of amusement. "That is their official response." "That is what fear sounds like when it has a lawyer," Koresh said. The bridge laughed because he expected them to. On the tactical wall, Earth's traffic lanes were glowing with civilian movement. Shuttles leaving lunar relay. Medical transports pulling away from Mars. Mining barges crawling inward from the belt. To a careful commander, it might have looked organized. To Koresh, it looked like a species trying to hide its valuables before the landlord arrived. Broadcast to all Dominion ships, he said. Maintain formation. No reckless fire. I want Earth intact. Gates are useless when conquered by fools. A young aide stepped closer. My lord, the old being's warning has spread across accord channels. Some neutral observers are requesting that we pause outside the inner marker. Koresh turned slowly. Neutral observers request many things. That is why they remain neutral. The aide bowed and backed away. Koresh allowed the silence to sit for a moment before speaking again. Send our answer to Terran Command. The communications officer opened the channel. Koresh stood taller, voice smooth, almost generous. Terran Defense Command. Your restraint has been noted as compliance. You will lower all orbital systems within 1 hour. You will place Soul Gate under Dominion supervision. You will instruct your civilian population to remain calm. If you behave sensibly, your cities will wake tomorrow under new management, not under morning bells. The message left the flagship and crossed the dark. For almost a minute, nothing came back. No threat, no insult, no desperate plea from a president. Just silence. Koresh watched the empty response window and mistook it for trembling. On the lower deck, Intelligence Officer Sarah Thane did not laugh with the others. She was Dominion, loyal by birth and career, but she had survived long enough in military intelligence to distrust anything too quiet. She enlarged the sensor map around Earth and frowned. Marshal, there is an odd pattern in their civilian evacuations. Everything about them is odd. No, sir. The hospital shuttles are being routed first, then children in school groups. Their military craft are waiting behind them. Koresh looked bored. Sentimentality. A weakness common to mammals. Or discipline, Sarah said before she could stop herself. The bridge cooled. Koresh's eyes settled on her. Explain. She swallowed. If they were panicking, the military would cut through the civilian lanes. They are not. They are accepting a delay to protect non-combatants. Koresh stepped down from his command dais until he stood beside her station. You are impressed because primitives formed a line? No, my lord. I am concerned because they formed it under invasion conditions. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then a proximity alert chimed. Not loud, not dramatic, just one clean tone. A small Dominion observation post near the outer belt blinked off the map, then returned 3 seconds later. The crew status changed from active to absent. The station remained untouched. The power grid was stable. The air supply was stable. Every escape pod had launched and was drifting safely, neatly arranged in a perfect circle around the station like someone had placed them there by hand. The bridge laughter died. Koresh stared at the display. Sensor error. Sarah checked the feed again, and the color left her face. No, my lord. It is a message. From Earth. There is no transmission attached. She zoomed in on the empty station, where the main screen had been changed to plain white text in Dominion script. 5 words waited there, calm as a signed receipt. Leave while you have ships. In the Hall of Quiet Stars, nobody spoke for almost 10 seconds after the Dominion feed showed the empty observation post. The delegates had watched many empires posture, threaten, and parade their strength across public channels. But this was different. Earth had not fired a grand shot for the galaxy to admire. Earth had not made a speech. Something had simply reached into a Dominion station, removed every living officer without harm, launched them into safe rescue pods, and left a note in their own language. Elder Vaylor stared at the image with a sadness that felt older than law. Across the chamber, a young counselor from the Marrow Compact turned toward him and whispered, "What was that?" Vaylor did not answer at first. He lifted one thin hand and requested access to the sealed archive beneath the chamber floor. The presiding arbiter stiffened. Those records are restricted under pre-accord security law. I wrote that law, Vaylor said. The arbiter's mouth closed. Around the hall, soft lights dimmed as the ancient systems woke up under the glass floor. A circular panel opened at the center of the chamber, revealing a black column no taller than a man. It looked plain, almost disappointing, until every translation device in the room went silent on its own. Vaylor walked slowly toward it. His silver-blue skin gave off a faint glow, but his steps were unsteady. Not from weakness, the delegates realized. From memory. He placed his palm on the column. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber recognized him. A deep tone rolled through the floor, and words appeared in the air above the council seats in thousands of languages at once. Living witness confirmed. Terran's silence event archive unsealed. A nervous murmur spread through the room. The Marrow counselor stood. Terran's silence event. Earth made first contact only a few centuries ago. Valor looked back at her. That is the first lie. The archive opened like a slow sunrise. Holograms filled the chamber, not with the clean blue ships humanity used now, not with their trade uniforms or polite ambassadors, but with older signals. Star maps marked with human math. Ancient engine trails near dead systems. Warning buoys older than the Accord itself, all carrying the same symbol. A small blue planet circled by a white line. The young counselors stared as their history rearranged itself in front of them. One delegate shook his head. That is impossible. Their civilization is too young. Their current civilization, Valor corrected. Humans are very good at starting over. He turned toward the public war feed, where Koresh's fleet continued moving deeper into Sol. They broke themselves once rather than let the rest of us burn with them. Then they buried the worst of what they knew. They returned to their cradle world. They forgot enough to become kind again. The Arbiter's voice came out dry. You are saying Earth disarmed voluntarily? No, Valor said. I am saying they put chains on a part of themselves that should never be mistaken for weakness. Another section of the archive unfolded, showing a treaty written in human signatures and alien marks, so old most species could no longer read their own names. At the bottom was a phrase in plain English, preserved without translation. The mercy constraint. The hall fell into a cold, uneasy silence. A junior delegate tried to laugh, but it died in his throat. Mercy from who? Valor looked at the screen where Dominion ships were still advancing, confident and bright. From them, he said. And for us. At that moment, a priority alert flashed across the Accord channel. Dominion Command had issued a new order. They were moving a strike group toward Luna Relay, a civilian communications station near Earth's moon. Valor lowered his head. For the first time since the crisis began, his voice shook. No, he whispered. That is the line. The order to target Luna Relay reached Terran Defense Command 12 seconds before the first Dominion strike group crossed the moon's outer safety zone. 12 seconds was not enough time to stop it. It was enough time for Commander Nathan Cole to understand exactly what kind of enemy he was dealing with. The relay was not a fortress. It was not a weapons platform. It was a bright, ugly, hard-working station bolted together over 60 years by engineers who cared more about function than elegance. It handled school calls from lunar habitats, emergency surgery links from orbital hospitals, weather routing for civilian shuttles, and half the boring communications that kept a crowded system from falling over itself. Nathan knew the place. Rachel had hated it. His ex-wife used to call it a floating airport with worse coffee. She was there now, supervising a medical transfer drill with 200 nurses, technicians, and patients who had been too fragile to move quickly. Dominion Strike Group is locking on, Lieutenant Jensen said. Her voice was tight, but she kept it steady. Luna Relay is broadcasting civilian status on all channels. Nathan stood behind her chair and watched the icons close. Patch me through to the relay administrator. A woman's face appeared on the small screen, middle-aged, exhausted, wearing a headset slightly crooked over silver hair. Behind her, people moved fast, but not wildly. Americans, Canadians, Nigerians, Japanese, Martians, lunar-born kids in oversized emergency jackets, all trying to do what adults do when things get bad. Keep the line moving. This is Administrator Karen Wilkes, she said. Commander, we have patients in transit and children in the East Concourse. Tell me you have something good. Nathan did not lie. I have evacuation priority for every shuttle you can launch. Medical first. Children next. Staff last. Wilkes stared at him for half a second, and that was all the fear she allowed herself. Understood. Karen, Nathan said, softer. Is Dr. Rachel Cole on your board? Wilkes looked down. Her expression changed just enough. She is in Surgical Bay 3. She refused a seat on the first shuttle. Nathan closed his eyes. Not long. Just a blink that carried 13 years of marriage, 1 daughter, 1 quiet divorce, 100 missed dinners, and the terrible private knowledge that Rachel would absolutely do something like that. Tell her Lily is safe. Wilkes nodded. I will. The channel cut as interference rolled over the relay. On the main screen, Dominion warning markers bloomed around the station. Koresh's voice came through public broadcast, rich and calm, like a man announcing a traffic change. Terran Command, civilian infrastructure supporting military resistance, is now subject to enforcement action. Compliance remains available. Lieutenant Jensen whispered. They know what that station is. Nathan answered without looking away. Yes. The room went still. Not frozen. Working. Hands moved. Orders passed. Shuttles launched from Luna Relay in clean emergency lanes, small white sparks running toward the shelter of Earth's inner shield. The Dominion strike did not look dramatic on the map. No roaring fire. No theatrical blast. Just a hard flash of white across the relay marker, followed by cascading system failures and a dozen emergency beacons screaming at once. Half the room seemed to inhale and never let it out. Jensen's screen filled with casualty estimates, missing persons, pressure warnings, medical alerts. She swallowed hard. Relay is crippled. Sections are sealed. Escape shuttles still launching. We have thousands unaccounted for. Nathan's personal display updated on its own. Dr. Rachel Cole. Status unknown. He stared at those two words until they stopped being words and became a weight in his chest. For one dangerous second, he was not Commander Cole. He was a father thinking about how to tell his daughter that her mother might not come home. Then the second passed. He straightened his back. Record everything, he said. Every transmission. Every sensor frame. Every civilian beacon. Colonel Hayes stepped closer. Sir, rules of engagement? Nathan looked at the white-lit protocol menu still waiting under his hand. The anger was there. Everyone in the bunker could feel it. But it did not spill out. It hardened. It became something colder than rage and far more useful. They were warned, Nathan said. In the warnings. He placed his palm on the scanner. Hearthline accepted him. Across the Sol system, lights that had slept under ice, dust, ocean, and stone opened like eyes. For 18 minutes after Luna Relay went dark, Earth said nothing. To the Dominion bridge, that silence looked like surrender getting dressed in nicer clothes. To Commander Nathan Cole, it sounded like every hidden system in Sol taking one slow breath. Beneath Cheyenne Mountain, the main display changed from a map into something older, something most officers in the room had only seen in classified training modules they were told would never matter. Civilian weather satellites around Jupiter shed their outer shells, an unfolded cold sensor erased the size of football fields. A fuel depot above Mars rotated 90 degrees, revealing launch rails that had been disguised as cargo spines for 20 years. In the asteroid belt, dead mining rocks woke up, corrected their drift, and began moving with the quiet precision of things that had never been dead at all. Lieutenant Jensen stared at her screen, pale and wide-eyed. Sir, I am seeing platforms come online that are not in the current defense registry. Nathan did not look away from the casualty feed. They are not current. Colonel Hayes took one step closer to the table. How old are they? Nathan finally raised his eyes. Old enough that Congress forgot to argue about them. Nobody smiled. The room was too busy understanding what that meant. Around Sol, ordinary machines became less ordinary. Navigation buoys stopped guiding traffic and started measuring Dominion shield harmonics. Rescue tugs near the moon kept pulling survivors out of damaged corridors, but their side antennas quietly painted enemy engines with invisible markers. Commercial freighters from Texas, Osaka, Lagos, Vancouver, and Perth shut off their public transponders and joined an encrypted formation pattern older than their captains. Not one fired. Not yet. That was the part Koresh did not understand. Earth was not hesitating. Earth was counting. On the crown of ash, intelligence officer Sarah Thane watched the human system bloom with impossible signals. My lord, she said carefully, we are detecting military-grade targeting solutions from civilian infrastructure. Koresh stood over her shoulder. A bluff. There are too many sources for a bluff. Then they have armed their civilians. No, Sarah said, her throat dry. They have hidden their military inside their civilization. Koresh's jaw tightened. He turned to the forward glass, where Earth was now a blue-white marble guarded by moons, stations, traffic lanes, and secrets. Jam their command net. We are trying. Sarah's fingers moved quickly across her console. Their network is not centralized. Every time we isolate one node, 12 more take over. Some are using quantum relays. Some are using optical line of sight. Some are using physical cable buried inside orbital debris. That is primitive. It is working. The words hung in the air longer than they should have. Back under the mountain, Nathan listened as reports came in without drama. Luna evacuation continuing. Medical shuttles 83% clear. Mars shield stable. Felt civilians sheltered. Rachel Cole still unknown. He let that last report hit him, absorbed it, and put it somewhere he could survive until later. Jensen looked up. Dominion is attempting system-wide jamming. Let them, sir. Nathan pointed to 3 clusters on the map. When they push power into the jammer grid, their aft shields dip for 4 seconds. Mark the timing. Share it with Saturn Platform 3. Jensen's hands moved, then froze. Saturn Platform 3 is listed as a helium refinery. Today it is multitasking. Across the system, near the golden edge of Saturn's rings, a quiet industrial platform adjusted its angle by less than 1 degree. No announcement. No heroic music. No bright warning beam. Just math, mass, and patience. On the Dominion tactical wall, one escort cruiser vanished from formation. Not in a fireball. Not in a glorious clash. Its engines went dark, its weapons locked down, and its crew found their ship drifting helplessly with every control surface frozen. A rescue channel opened automatically, in perfect Dominion language. Your life support is intact. Do not restart your engines. Koresh stared at the disabled vessel. They are disabling ships. Sarah whispered, they are choosing to. A second Dominion cruiser went dark. Then a third. Then the outer edge of Koresh's proud formation began to fold inward, not destroyed, but handled, separated, and placed exactly where Earth wanted it. In Cheyenne Mountain, Nathan Cole took one breath and gave the next order. Open a public channel to every Dominion ship. The communications officer nodded. Channel open. Nathan leaned toward the microphone, voice flat, tired, and very human. This is Terran Defense Command. You attacked a civilian station. You are now under defensive restraint protocol. Power down weapons and engines, and you will be recovered alive. Keep advancing, and we will keep removing your choices. He paused, eyes fixed on the wounded relay near the moon. This is not negotiation. This is the last courtesy. In the Hall of Quiet Stars, the public channel from Terran Defense Command played through every translation system at once, and for the first time in recorded Accord history, no delegate asked for clarification. They all understood the tone. It was not rage. It was not panic. It was the sound of a tired man offering one final clean exit before the door locked behind them. Elder Vaylor stood beside the open archive column, his silver-blue face lit by streams of old human signatures and dead languages. Across the chamber, the presiding arbiter watched the Dominion formation on the war feed begin to lose its shape. Ships were not exploding. That made it worse somehow. Earth was taking them apart like a mechanic removing the keys from drunk drivers one by one. They are still holding back, Vaylor said. The Marrow counselor turned toward him. That is holding back. Vaylor gave her a look so heavy she wished she had not spoken. Yes. The archive shifted again. The words the mercy constraint expanded above the chamber, followed by clauses written in plain, careful legal English. No first use of extinction systems. No autonomous pursuit beyond declared defensive space. No civilian targeting. No retaliatory action against surrendered crews. No release of pre-collapse strategic assets except under direct attack upon Earth, Luna, Mars, or recognized civilian habitats of Sol. A younger delegate from the Thane Republic stepped into the aisle, voice shaking. This is a human treaty with themselves. Correct, Vaylor said. Why would any species need a treaty with itself? Vaylor looked back toward the feed, where another Dominion ship drifted powerless but intact. Because humans know themselves better than their enemies ever do. On the crown of ash, High Marshal Koresh Vaughn listened to Earth's warning with a face carved out of pride and bad decisions. Around him, officers worked fast, but not confidently anymore. Every system that should have made them superior was becoming a liability. Their jammers exposed their shields. Their formation gave Earth predictable lanes. Their weapons needed clean targeting, and Sol had become a house with every light turned off except the ones Earth wanted them to see. All ships advance, Koresh said. Sarah Thane turned from her console. My lord, that will push us deeper into the defensive grid. Then break the grid. We do not know where it begins. Koresh stepped closer until his shadow fell across her station. It begins wherever humans are hiding. Fire on the nearest platform. Sarah stared at the tactical screen. The nearest platform was marked as an old helium refinery near Saturn, unarmed by Dominion classification. Her hands paused above the command keys. My lord, Terran Command has declared rescue status for disabled crews. If we fire on an industrial platform after that broadcast, the Accord will classify it as deliberate escalation. The Accord is watching me win. No, she said quietly. They are watching you run out of chances. The bridge went still. Koresh raised his hand, not to strike, but to silence every breath in the room. Before he could speak, the flagship alarm sounded, low and unfamiliar. Sarah looked down and went pale. Saturn Platform 3 has completed a mass alignment. A refinery? Koresh snapped. A refinery cannot threaten a dreadnought. On the Accord feed, the old human platform near Saturn did not glow, charge, or roar. It simply released something small, dense, and already moving faster than Dominion Doctrine had a word for. The object passed through the edge of a dreadnought's shield bubble and shut down its drive core with surgical precision. The great warship stopped advancing. Its weapons folded cold. Its crew remained alive, trapped inside a perfectly intact monument to their own arrogance. In Cheyenne Mountain, Lieutenant Jensen whispered, "Target disabled. Life support stable." Nathan Cole nodded once. "Good." Colonel Hayes studied him. "They still have hundreds of ships." Nathan looked at the map, then at the red marker over Luna Relay. "Then we will give hundreds of ships the same courtesy." Back in the Hall of Quiet Stars, the final clause of the Mercy constraint illuminated above Vaylor's head. If Sol civilians are attacked after formal warning, restraint may be lifted by Terran Command until the aggressor can no longer continue hostile action. The chamber fell silent. Vaylor closed the archive with one shaking hand. "That," he said, "is the old law opening." The Dominion fleet did not break all at once. It broke the way Pride usually breaks, one quiet fact at a time. First, the outer escorts lost propulsion and drifted harmlessly into rescue corridors that Earth had already calculated for them. Then 3 carrier groups found their targeting systems showing empty space where Earth's platforms had been seconds before. Then the Crown of Ash tried to rally the formation, only to discover that every command pulse it sent was being delayed, copied, and returned with a polite Terran checksum attached, like Earth was proofreading the invasion. Under Cheyenne Mountain, Commander Nathan Cole stood with both hands on the edge of the table, watching red icons turn amber. Amber meant disabled. Amber meant alive. Amber meant his people were still choosing restraint while the whole room wanted something easier. Colonel Hayes leaned close. "Sir, Dominion destroyers are attempting to shield the flagship. Saturn Platform 3 is asking for permission to escalate." Nathan did not answer right away. His eyes moved to Luna Relay, still blinking with emergency markers near the moon. "How many rescue shuttles are clear?" Lieutenant Jensen checked. 91%. Search teams are still moving through sealed sections. "We have a partial medical roster." Nathan kept his face still, but everyone near him saw his fingers tighten against the table. "Rachel." Jensen looked down, and for a terrible second, she said nothing. Then she breathed out. "Dr. Rachel Cole is alive. Injured, conscious, and refusing evacuation until her patients move first." Nathan looked away from the screen. Just for a moment. He stared at the concrete wall of the bunker like it was the only thing holding him upright. When he spoke, his voice was rougher, but still controlled. "That sounds like her." Hayes waited, then said carefully, "Sir, with respect, Koresh gave the order that hit that station. We can end his flagship now." Nathan looked at the Crown of Ash icon. He imagined Rachel in a damaged surgical bay, probably bossing around people half her age. He imagined Lily under Denver, pretending not to cry because he had asked her to help the younger kids. He imagined every family waiting for a name to appear on a safe list. The anger came up so hard it almost felt clean. Almost. Then he pushed it back down where it belonged. "No life support targets," he said. "No bridge strikes if they are transmitting surrender requests. Engines, weapons, command links only." Hayes nodded, but his jaw was tight. "You are giving him mercy he did not give Luna." Nathan turned to him. I am giving our children a world where we still know the difference. On the crown of ash, High Marshal Koresh Vaughn watched his perfect invasion become a scattered line of powerless ships. Sarathane Station was filled with requests from captains asking permission to shut down weapons and accept Terran recovery. They are not destroying us, she said. They are containing us. Koresh gripped the back of his command chair. Then we strike Earth directly. No officer moved. Sarah slowly looked up. My lord, that order will not be obeyed. The silence that followed was deeper than mutiny. It was recognition. The Dominion officers had finally seen what Koresh refused to see. Earth was not fighting like a cornered animal. Earth was fighting like a parent standing in a doorway. Calm, furious, and done asking nicely. A new message appeared across every Dominion console at once. It was not loud. It did not need to be. Power down, accept recovery, and live. Advance again, and command authority will be removed. Koresh stared at the words, then at the faces of his own crew. For the first time since entering Seoul, nobody looked back at him with certainty. In Cheyenne Mountain, Jensen said, Marshal Koresh is attempting to open a private surrender channel to the Accord. Nathan's eyes remained on the flagship. Private? Yes, sir. Nathan took one slow breath. No, the room turned toward him. He straightened, tired, pale, and steady. Put him on public channel. The public channel opened across Seoul, across the Hall of Quiet Stars, across every Dominion ship still drifting under Earth's guns, and High Marshal Koresh Vaughn had nowhere left to hide his voice. His image appeared on the main screen beneath Cheyenne Mountain, armor still polished, posture still proud, but his eyes gave him away. Behind him, the bridge of the Crown of Ash was dim, quiet, and full of officers who had stopped pretending this was a victory waiting to happen. Commander Nathan Cole stood before the microphone with his sleeves rolled up, coffee forgotten, face pale from 20 hours without sleep and 10 minutes of news no father should ever have to carry alone. Koresh spoke first because men like him always tried to own the room, even when the room was no longer theirs. Terran Command, the Dominion is prepared to discuss a temporary cessation of hostilities. Nathan looked at him for a long second. No, Koresh blinked. No. You do not get a temporary anything. You attacked a civilian station after formal warning. You brought a fleet into our home system. You threatened families, hospitals, and children because you wanted a shortcut through space. So here's what happens now. The bunker went still. Even the machines seemed to lower their voices. Nathan picked up a printed document from the table because somehow paper felt right for this. The Dominion will power down every weapon in Seoul. You will transfer command codes to neutral Accord custody. You will withdraw from every occupied border world within 30 days. You will fund the rebuilding of Luna Relay. Every officer involved in the attack order will stand before a civilian tribunal. Seoul Gate remains under Earth protection. Human medical teams will treat your injured crews until transfer is complete. Koresh's face tightened. Those terms will ruin my government. Nathan's answer came quietly. You should have thought about your government before you made mothers check casualty lists. No one spoke after that. In the Hall of Quiet Stars, Elder Vaylor closed his eyes, and for the first time that day, he looked almost relieved. Not happy. Never happy. Just relieved that humanity had reached the edge of its oldest anger and chosen to stop there. The presiding arbiter rose slowly and said, The Accord recognizes Terran defensive authority in Seoul. The Dominion will comply. Koresh looked around his own bridge, searching for loyalty, for fear, for anything he could still command. He found tired officers, silent consoles, and a blue planet on the screen that had refused to become what he wanted it to be. At last, Sarathane removed her sidearm, placed it on her console, and said, My lord, give the codes. One by one, Dominion ships powered down. Rescue tugs moved out from Earth, Mars, and the Belt, not as conquerors, but as professionals with work to do. They carried oxygen, water, medics, blankets, and translators. They docked with enemy ships and treated frightened crews who had been told humans were fragile, emotional, primitive things. The first Dominion captain brought aboard a Terran recovery vessel asked a nurse why she was helping them. The nurse, a woman from Ohio with tired eyes and a steady hand, only said, Because somebody has to be better than the worst thing that happened today. Hours later, Nathan finally stepped out of the command room and took a private call from Luna Medical Triage. Rachel was alive. Hurt, exhausted, angry, and already asking for a list of patients. He laughed once, not because anything was funny, but because grief sometimes loosens its grip just enough to let air back in. Then Lily called from the Denver shelter. "Dad?" she asked. "Are we safe now?" Nathan looked through the bunker hallway at the men and women still working, still counting, still refusing to celebrate too loudly while families waited for names. "Yes," he said, "but remember something for me. Safe does not mean harmless." Across the galaxy, the Accord updated its oldest navigation charts. Around Sol, a new warning marker appeared, plain and permanent. It did not call humanity monsters. It did not call Earth sacred. It simply told the truth every empire eventually had to learn. Peace is not weakness. Mercy is not fear. And when a people spend centuries holding back the worst of themselves, only a fool mistakes that restraint for permission.